I still remember the night it happened, vivid like an image burned into my mind. I'd gone to Greenfield Market, a local grocery store, after work one evening about 5 years ago. My shift had run late, so by the time I reached the aisles, it was well past 9 p.m., nearing 10. The store was nearly deserted, the faint hum of fluorescent lights filling the silence as I navigated the shelves. I only needed a few things, barely enough to fill a basket, so I aimed to get in and out quickly. Lost in thought, I wandered into one of the quieter aisles, grabbing the last couple of items on my list, when I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. Startled, I glanced up. A man was walking down the aisle toward me. He was in his late 30s, tall, with an unkempt beard and a hoodie pulled tight over his head. His boots made faint thuds against the tile floor. His eyes were sharp, fixed on me in a way that felt too direct, too intentional. "Hey," he said, his voice calm but oddly urgent. "I think I might have backed into your car in the parking lot." For a second, my mind blanked. All I could process was the word backed. My car? A jolt of worry coursed through me, imagining dents and shattered glass. Before I could respond, he added quickly, "It's not that bad. I just thought I should let you know." Feeling a flicker of relief, I nodded. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. Want to take a look?" He gestured toward the exit. His casual tone made me feel slightly better, and I figured it was just a minor bump, something I could shrug off and deal with later. Reluctantly, I followed him out of the aisle, toward the store's entrance. As we stepped into the parking lot, the world seemed eerily quiet, almost too quiet. The buzz of the store behind me faded, replaced by an unnatural stillness. I tightened my grip on my keys, a subtle unease creeping up my spine. We walked toward my car. It was parked in the farthest corner of the lot, my habit to avoid the crowded spaces closer to the entrance. My breath fogged the chilly night air as my steps slowed. That's when I saw it. My car stood untouched, no dents, no scratches. But parked just a few feet behind it was a large, dark SUV. The windows were tinted and its engine was off, but it seemed to loom in the dim parking lot light. As we drew closer, the rear door of the SUV suddenly opened. A tall, burly man stepped out. He was built like a linebacker, his face partially obscured by the shadow of a baseball cap. His stance was casual but intimidating, and his eyes locked onto mine. "Is this your car?" the man with the hoodie asked, his voice suddenly cold, almost mocking. Something in me snapped. I didn't wait to process the situation. I spun on my heel and bolted. "Hey!" one of them shouted behind me, but I didn't turn back. My heart pounded as my shoes slapped against the pavement, the store's fluorescent lights growing brighter with each step. I burst through the automatic doors, breathless and trembling. A few late-night shoppers glanced at me, startled. I stumbled toward the customer service counter, my words tumbling out in a rush. "There are men in the parking lot. They tried to lure me out there." The employee, a middle-aged woman named Marcy, frowned. "What happened?" I quickly explained, pointing toward the lot. Marcy grabbed the phone and called security while I tried to steady my breathing. Minutes later, a security guard arrived, and together we peered out at the parking lot. The SUV was still there, its engine now idling. But as soon as they noticed us watching, it slowly pulled out of the lot, disappearing into the night. The guard walked me to my car, flashlight in hand. I glanced around nervously, half expecting the SUV to reappear. Thankfully, my car was untouched. Marcy urged me to call the police, and I did. An officer arrived shortly after, taking my statement. I described the two men in detail: the hoodie, the baseball cap, their approximate heights and builds. The officer nodded grimly. "Sounds like they were trying to lure you into a trap," he said. "There have been a few incidents like this in the area recently. You did the right thing by running." I drove home that night, my hands shaking on the wheel, replaying the encounter in my mind. How had the man known it was my car? Had they been watching me before I even stepped into the store? For weeks I avoided Greenfield Market, choosing other stores instead. When I finally returned, it was during the day, surrounded by crowds of people. Even now, 5 years later, I don't go out for late-night grocery runs. The memory of that night lingers, a haunting reminder of how quickly an ordinary evening can turn dangerous. And one thing is certain, I'll never ignore my instincts again. I used to work in a small, quiet grocery store in Colchester. It wasn't part of a big chain or a trendy boutique. It was a locally owned place that had been around for decades. The kind of store where everyone knew your name, where you could chat with the customers about their kids, their gardens, or their weekend plans. Colchester was a sleepy town, the sort of place where nothing much ever happened, and that's exactly how I liked it. I'd worked there for 2 years by the time this all went down, and I had earned enough trust to often close up alone. The store had its quirks. The floors creaked, the aisles were narrow, and the ceiling tiles had this way of flickering on and off when the wind outside picked up. But the strangest thing about the store was how lonely it could feel, especially late at night when everyone else had gone home. It was quiet, almost too quiet, with only the hum of the fluorescent lights and the occasional sound of something shifting in the breeze. It wasn't that I felt scared exactly, but sometimes there was this underlying tension in the air, like the building itself was holding its breath. That night, I was alone for the last 2 hours of my shift. Lisa had left hours earlier, and I'd spent the evening in the store, putting in my time, checking the shelves, and making sure everything was ready for the morning. It was a slow night, the kind of night when the minutes seemed to stretch on forever. The only sound was the occasional beep of the scanner, or the soft rustling of my phone as I scrolled through it absent-mindedly. As I sat behind the counter, I glanced up at the front window. It was a quiet night in the parking lot, too. Just my old car sitting in the corner, waiting for me to finish. That's when I heard the rumble of an engine approaching. A car pulled into the lot, the tires crunching softly against the gravel. I barely thought anything of it at first. People came and went all the time, even at this hour. But when the car came to a stop and the door opened, I couldn't shake this odd feeling. The man who got out was tall, maybe in his 40s, wearing a dark jacket and a cap that obscured his face. He didn't seem in a hurry. In fact, he moved at an almost slow, deliberate pace. As he made his way to the door, I could feel something wasn't right. There was something about his demeanor, the way he seemed to be taking his time, watching everything around him, that made my skin crawl. But I brushed it off. People were strange sometimes, and it wasn't my job to judge. Minutes passed. I glanced up, half expecting him to be walking down one of the aisles, but I didn't see him. Then, something caught my eye. There he was, standing just past the aisle near the entrance. He wasn't browsing. He wasn't looking for anything. He was just standing there staring at me. I froze. His eyes were wide, too wide, unnaturally so. His face was expressionless, but his gaze, it felt like he was boring into me, watching me like I was some kind of specimen under a microscope. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to look away, but my heart was already hammering in my chest. What was he doing? I tried to stay calm, focusing on my phone, pretending I hadn't noticed. But the moments ticked by, and when I glanced up again, he was still there, standing behind a shelf, his eyes fixed on me. I forced myself to breathe steadily, to pretend like everything was fine. But my skin felt hot, my stomach twisting into knots. After a while, I heard the sound of footsteps behind me. I turned, and he was gone, vanished into thin air. My relief was short-lived. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. The air in the store felt colder, heavier. Something was wrong. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe he was just a little strange, but nothing to worry about. Yet when I turned back to the aisles, I saw him again. This time he was standing in the produce section, barely visible behind a stack of tomatoes. He hadn't moved, not even an inch. His eyes were still locked onto mine, like he was waiting for something. My heart raced. I'd worked late shifts many times before, and I had never felt this uneasy. There was something about the way he was standing there, motionless, like a predator stalking its prey, that set off every alarm in my body. "Can I help you with something?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. My hand hovered over the button for the store's security alarm, just in case. I didn't wait for an answer. Instead, I turned quickly, walking to the back of the store, hoping that maybe, just maybe, he was harmless. But when I reached the back, I heard the swish of the automatic doors. I froze. I glanced up, my heart in my throat, as I saw him standing outside, just staring through the glass. His eyes never left mine. I felt a wave of panic rise in my chest. I tried to calm myself down, reminding myself that the store had security cameras, that there was a police station just down the road, but that didn't make the feeling in my gut go away. He wasn't leaving. He wasn't even looking at his car, just watching me. I needed him to leave. I needed the situation to end. So I took a deep breath, tried to steady my hands, and locked the doors. The sound of the bolt sliding home echoed in the quiet store, amplifying the tension I felt. I quickly turned the sign on the door to closed, but that didn't feel like enough. I didn't know if he was still there, lurking outside, but I wasn't going to take any chances. Minutes dragged by as I moved through my closing routine, tidying the shelves, wiping down counters, pretending like everything was fine. But I couldn't stop glancing toward the window. I couldn't stop thinking about the look in his eyes. Why was he still here? What did he want from me? Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I heard the sound of his car starting up. It was faint at first, and then it grew louder. I dared to peek out the window. His headlights flashed across the front of the store before his car slowly started to pull away. I stood there for a moment, watching, holding my breath. I waited, just to be sure. The last thing I wanted was to let my guard down too soon. But as the car disappeared into the night, I felt the weight in my chest lift just a little. But when I stepped outside, my relief was short-lived. As I walked to my car, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still being watched. I glanced nervously over my shoulder, my keys gripped tightly in my hand. My heart pounded in my chest, and I couldn't get into my car fast enough. When I finally locked the door behind me, I exhaled sharply, but the feeling of unease remained, gnawing at me. I drove home that night, but I couldn't shake the thought of the man's eyes. They were burned into my memory, and even now, I can't quite explain why. Was he just some weirdo with no particular reason for being there? Or was there something more to it? The idea that he had been watching me, waiting for something, still haunts me. I don't know if I'll ever have an answer. But one thing is for sure. I'll never look at an empty store parking lot the same way again. It was just another Thursday night, the kind that slipped by unnoticed like so many before it. I was in my mid-20s, living in a small town called Graysville, where life typically slowed down after the sun set. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and nothing ever really changed. I was used to this quiet, safe routine. I had a short grocery list, and after a long week, I decided to make a quick run to the local supermarket. The air had that sharp coolness to it, the kind that only shows up at night, and I welcomed it. The store was calm, almost empty. A few scattered shoppers, the usual hum of overhead lights, and the soft shuffle of carts on linoleum. It was peaceful. As I moved down the aisles, checking off items on my list, I felt a presence. A woman stood a few aisles down, her back to me, but her head turned just enough that I caught the flash of her eyes. I shrugged it off. Just a strange coincidence, right? But as I made my way through the next few aisles, I saw her again. This time, she was closer. Her gaze was locked on me. It wasn't just a casual glance. She was staring, intensely, unnervingly. I didn't know why, but I felt my chest tighten. I tried to shake it off, assuming she was just another lost shopper, but she didn't move. She didn't pick up anything. She didn't look at any of the products. She just watched. I tried to focus on my shopping, keep moving. But with every step, I could feel her eyes following me, like a shadow. When I reached the checkout, my heart was racing. Was I overreacting? It didn't seem like it at the time, but now as I stood in line, I could feel the unease building inside me. I paid for my groceries, my hands trembling slightly as I did. As I pushed my cart through the parking lot, the cold air felt good against my flushed skin. I was almost done. Almost home. I loaded my bags into the car, the last of the heavy items, water and Gatorade, settling in the cart. Then, something caught my eye. Tucked between the bottles, hidden beneath the plastic, was a plain, unmarked envelope. I frowned. How did that get there? I hadn't seen it when I was loading my groceries. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened it right there, the cold wind biting at my skin as I slid out the contents. My breath caught in my throat. 5 Polaroid photos of me. The first was from outside the store, just as I'd walked in. But the others were far worse. I could see myself shopping, looking at the shelves, picking up items. But they were taken from angles I hadn't noticed. Some from far away, some uncomfortably close. Close enough to see the subtle change in my expression, the items I was holding. There was no mistaking it. Someone had been watching me. I froze, staring at the photos. I didn't see anyone in the parking lot. No one was lingering. But it was impossible to deny what I was looking at. Someone had followed me. And worse, they had taken the time to hide these photos in my cart. My hands trembled as I grabbed the last bags from my cart and threw them into the trunk, my mind racing. Who could it be? Why? I glanced around, half expecting to see the woman from the store lurking in the shadows, but there was no one. No movement. No sign of life. I got into my car, locked the doors and started the engine, but the unease never left. It felt like someone was still there, watching me. The street was empty, but I kept checking my rearview mirror, half expecting headlights to appear behind me. Nothing. The road stayed dark. When I pulled into my driveway, I grabbed the bags and hurried inside. I locked the door, but the photos were still on my mind. I sat on the couch trying to call my friends, but no one had seen or heard anything. They all thought I was overreacting. Just as I started to think maybe I was, the street outside went dark. The soft hum of the neighborhood seemed to fade. Then I saw it. A car had pulled up slowly, just outside my house. It stopped. The engine went silent. I froze, staring out the window. My heart raced. Who was it? A neighbor? But no, this car wasn't familiar. No lights turned on. No one stepped out. It was just there, staring back at me. I told myself it was nothing, just a mistake. Maybe it was a lost driver. But I couldn't shake the feeling. I kept watching. I couldn't tear myself away from the window. Minutes ticked by and still no movement. The car was just parked. I tried to ignore it, but the feeling of being watched kept growing. I finally went to bed, exhausted, hoping it was all in my head. But sleep didn't come easy. Something was wrong. Then I heard it. A soft scratching at the window. My pulse spiked as I sat up, listening. My breath caught in my throat. The scratching wasn't from outside the house. It was coming from my bedroom window. I turned slowly, terrified of what I might see. There she was, the woman from the store. Her face was pressed against the window, her eyes cold and hollow, staring at me. The same unsettling, fixed gaze from the aisles of the supermarket. But this was different. This was personal. I gasped, my blood running cold. I scrambled for the light switch, flicking it on in a frantic rush. As the room flooded with light, she stepped back, disappearing into the shadows. I rushed to the living room, peering through the curtains. I saw her running across my yard, headed straight for the car still parked at the end of the driveway. She climbed into the car and sped off, disappearing into the night. I was frozen, paralyzed. What the hell just happened? I called the police. my voice shaky as I tried to explain everything, from the strange woman at the store to her sudden appearance outside my window. But without concrete evidence, they told me there was nothing they could do. It could have been anyone, they said. A prank, maybe. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Days passed, but the unease didn't leave. I checked my windows constantly, watched for any unfamiliar cars. I couldn't trust my own neighborhood anymore. Then, a week later, another envelope showed up on my doorstep. This time it was empty, but I knew it wasn't over. I was frozen, paralyzed. What the hell had just happened? I called the police, my voice shaky as I tried to explain everything, from the strange woman at the store to her sudden appearance outside my window. But without concrete evidence, they told me there was nothing they could do. It could have been anyone, they said. A prank, maybe. Days passed, but the unease didn't leave. I checked my windows constantly, peered into my rearview mirror every time I drove. My sense of safety, once something so familiar, felt like a distant memory. The paranoia lingered like a shadow that wouldn't go away. Then, a week later, another envelope showed up on my doorstep. It was a small, plain, unmarked thing, just like the first. My heart raced as I bent down to pick it up, knowing that this could be the end of it, or just the beginning. I ripped it open quickly, my fingers trembling. The envelope was empty. No photos, no messages, just a single folded piece of paper. I hesitated, staring at it for a moment longer than I should have. Then I unfolded it. Written in jagged, barely legible handwriting were 3 words: "You're next." My blood ran cold. I could feel the room closing in on me, my heartbeat pulsing in my ears. The fear that had begun to subside surged back, stronger than before. I glanced around, paranoid. Was she outside? Was she watching me again? I looked down at the envelope, my mind racing. It felt too real, too personal. I stood there for a long time, my body frozen in the hallway, the words echoing in my head. "You're next." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. As I stood there, a strange noise came from outside. Faint at first, but growing louder. It sounded like the faint hum of a car engine, moving closer. I froze, every muscle in my body locking up. Through the window, I could see headlights approaching slowly, coming to a stop just in front of my house. My heart thudded harder. Was it her? Was it someone else? The car sat there for what felt like hours. No one stepped out. No movement. Just the quiet hum of the engine idling, the car's headlights illuminating my driveway like a spotlight. I swallowed hard, backing away from the window, feeling the heat of my own breath as it quickened. But as I turned to move, I heard something that made my stomach drop. A soft, almost inaudible scratching at the glass. It was happening again. When I look back on my childhood, one incident still lingers in the shadows of my memory, even though it's been years. I must have been around 10 or 11, young but old enough to run a simple errand. That night, a chill settled over me that I could never quite shake off. It was a typical evening. My mom, my little sister, and I were heading out to run errands. I don't remember where we were going, only that it was supposed to be a quick trip, just a brief stop on our way to wherever. Somewhere along the way, I suddenly remembered that I needed something from the grocery store. What it was, I can't recall, but it was important enough for me to mention it. My sister was very young back then, too young for my mom to want to wrangle us both inside the store for one quick item. Instead, she parked by the curb and handed me a few bills. "Be quick, okay? And don't talk to strangers," she said, her voice firm but casual. I nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. It wasn't often I got to go into places by myself. She promised to wait in a parking spot not far from the entrance. It seemed simple, easy, nothing to worry about. The grocery store was quiet that evening, with only a handful of customers roaming its aisles. The fluorescent lights flickered slightly, casting long, strange shadows that made the place feel colder than it should have been. As I walked through the automatic doors, I felt a small shiver, but I brushed it off. It was just a grocery store. I wandered down the aisles, scanning the shelves for whatever item I'd come for. I wasn't in a rush at first, figuring it wouldn't take long. The faint hum of the lights buzzed in the background, occasionally punctuated by the distant sound of a cart's wheels or the muffled chatter of employees. But as I turned down another aisle, I felt it. A tingle on the back of my neck. That quiet, instinctual feeling that someone was watching me. I glanced over my shoulder, expecting to see nothing but rows of neatly stocked shelves. Instead, I saw him. He was standing at the far end of the aisle, just standing there. A man in his late 40s with unkempt hair and a scruffy appearance. His clothes looked worn, his posture slightly hunched, but what struck me most were his eyes. They were locked onto me with a focus that made my skin crawl. I quickly looked away, pretending not to notice. My heart picked up its pace, but I told myself I was imagining things. People crossed paths in grocery stores all the time. Maybe he was just looking for something on the shelf near me. But as I moved to the next aisle, he followed. At first, I tried to convince myself it was a coincidence. He had to be shopping too, right? But the more I moved, the more obvious it became that he wasn't browsing. His eyes never left me. He didn't pick up a single item. My pulse quickened as fear began to creep in. I forced myself to stay calm, weaving through the aisles in hopes of losing him. I turned a corner, then another, zigzagging through the store. Each time I dared to look back, he was there, trailing behind like a shadow. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. Should I ask an employee for help? But what would I say? Maybe I was overreacting. Yet deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I decided to abandon my search and head for the exit. Whatever I needed, it wasn't worth this. My steps quickened as I made my way to the front of the store, but I could feel his presence, heavy and inescapable, following close behind. The automatic doors parted with a soft whoosh as I stepped out into the night. A gust of cold air hit me, but it did nothing to clear the fog of fear in my mind. I scanned the parking lot, searching desperately for my mom's car. For a moment I couldn't see it. The cars, the lights, the shadows, they all blurred together. My heart pounded as panic set in. Where was she? Then I spotted it, parked at the far end of the lot. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. As I sprinted toward the car, I heard footsteps behind me, quick and deliberate. I didn't dare look back. When I reached the car, I yanked at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. It was locked. I pounded on the window, my breath coming in short, frantic gasps. "Mom, open the door!" She turned around, her face etched with confusion and concern. The lock clicked and I scrambled into the back seat, slamming the door shut behind me. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice tinged with alarm. "There's a man. He followed me," I stammered, pointing toward the store. She turned to look, her expression hardening as she spotted him. He was standing just a few feet away, his face partially obscured by the shadows. There was something unsettling about the way he stood there, motionless, as if he wasn't sure whether to leave or come closer. Without a word, my mom put the car in reverse, her movements sharp and deliberate. As we backed away, the man took a step forward, his dark eyes fixed on us. My mom didn't wait to see what he would do next. She pulled out of the parking lot, her grip on the wheel tight, her jaw set. We didn't stop driving until we were several blocks away. Only then did she pull over and grab her phone, her hands shaking slightly as she dialed the store's number. She reported the man, her voice calm but firm, describing what had happened. After hanging up, she turned to me, her expression softening. "Are you okay?" I nodded, though my hands were still trembling. She reached back and squeezed my hand, her touch grounding me in a way words couldn't. For days after, I couldn't shake the memory of his gaze. I avoided that grocery store, even years later, the thought of stepping inside filling me with unease. And sometimes, in quiet moments, I'd feel that same tingle on the back of my neck, a shadow of the fear that had gripped me that night. Even now, as an adult, I can't help but look over my shoulder in parking lots and grocery stores, my eyes scanning the shadows for a figure that I hope I'll never see again.